You.
Everybody gather near. The doctor's in the house, so lend him your ear. The things he can say might even make your day. He might even help your pain go away. The doctor is in the house. The doctor is in the house. Let the doctor know what's bothering you. Sure, he can tell you just what to do. The doctor is in the house. Doctor is in the house. Let the doctor know what's bothering you. The doctor is in the house. If you have a pain, call the doctor. If you have a sprain, call the doctor. Let the doctor know what you're going through. Let him tell you what's good for you. Because the doctor is in the house. The doctor is in the house. Call the doctor. Call the doctor. Call the doctor. Call the doctor.
Hey, thank you, Freddie, and thank you, everyone, for tuning in to this program tonight where we interviewed Dr. Patrick Porter on Braintap technology and brain biohacking. It's going to be a great run for everybody concerned, including your hosts. Ladies and gentlemen, with an attitude of gratitude, I welcome you tonight to Dr. Ron, Unfiltered, Uncensored, with Dr. Ron and Dr. Jerry as your hosts. Here every week for your learning and listening pleasure, bringing you medical news that you will not get from the mainstream media. And with an attitude of gratitude, because we know that gratitude improves our quality of life. It is an antidote for negative emotions like depression, anxiety, and anger. So, ladies and gentlemen, this program is brought to you with this disclaimer that this program contains general medical information. The medical information heard on this program is not advice and should not be treated as such. The information is not intended or implied to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. You should never delay seeking medical advice, disregard medical advice, or discontinue medical treatment because of information heard on this program. You are encouraged to confirm any information obtained from this program with other sources and review all information regarding any medical condition or treatment with your physician. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. We are really grateful to have you. And tonight will be a show that's a little bit different. We don't usually tackle these type of subjects, but you'll see some commonality because we'll be talking about frequencies. Well, frequencies in your brain and frequencies of light. And we know that light energy frequency is equal to our spirit and our emotion of love. And all our great foods, when you have good foods, you have lots of light energy frequencies. And these frequencies can erase and replace our beliefs. So with that being said, I want to introduce Dr. Jerry. Dr. Jerry's been with us over 2 years now and a valuable part of the program. So Dr. Jerry, how are you?
I'm doing really great. I think it's going to be a fantastic program. The information is going to be tremendous information for our listeners because, like you said, you're not going to hear it on 11 o'clock news, and it's something that's going to benefit them in the long run.
Dr. Jerry, I see some numbers I don't recognize, and one of them might be Dr. Porter, so I'm going to go off and into the room, and I will be back. It's all yours.
Thank you. Well, the brainwave technology is pretty incredible. Back in the 60s, they were curing addictions in 3 to 5 days with frequencies. And unfortunately, the whole industry just shut it down because it would have destroyed them. I think tonight's program is going to be enlightening, informative, and change some of your lives if you get involved with this type of technology. I use frequencies in my practice every day. We have people that are depressed, anxiety, and using frequencies to stimulate the neurotransmitters, it flips them around. So this stuff really works, and I think Dr. Ron's going to pick up now, and hopefully get Patrick on the show right now.
Yeah, we have Dr. Patrick Porter on the line, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a 5-hour program. Now, I just wanted to get his endorphins going. We could actually have him for 5 hours and get his sympathetic nervous system all charged up. So, ladies and gentlemen,
he's probably plugged into the alpha state.
He's going to need his own tapes after this show. Dr. Porter is an award-winning author, ladies and gentlemen. He's an entrepreneur. He's a speaker. He is the creator of Braintap Technology. It's a company that produces digital tools for health and wellness. Braintap's mind development apps, and it is an app. I downloaded it today, and accessories use creative visualization and relaxation to help people overcome stress and insomnia. Get this one, ladies and gentlemen. Lose weight, stop smoking, manage pain, accelerate learning, and much more, which he will inform us about. Braintap Tech has produced over 800 custom sessions and has sold more than 3 million books and recordings worldwide. With stress-related health and lifestyle issues at an all-time high, Braintap has emerged as a leader in the digital health and wellness field. And he sure attracted Dr. Jerry's and I attention. And we're very grateful and humbled that he came on the program. So with that, let's introduce Dr. Patrick Porter. Good evening, sir.
Hey, thanks for having me here. It's great to be here.
Our pleasure. Dr. Porter, let's do something a little bit different tonight. Maybe if you could give your contact information to our listeners, website, telephone numbers, and then if you would, before we get into the nitty-gritty, if you could inform our listeners of the different types of brain waves so they have a basis for what we'll be talking about.
Okay, we can do that. So you can go to braintap.com. That's the general website. But for the listeners who want to learn more and download that app you were talking about for free, and they can also get a copy of my book called Private Overdrive if they go to braintap.pro. That's Braintap, all one word, period, P-R-O. They'll get it doesn't ask for a credit card, so your guest can just log in, try out the app, get the book for free, and learn more about it. And then if they need to call the office, of course, they can call 302-721-6677. They'll probably go to the app first and download that. Now, when we're talking about brainwaves, and you're talking about neurotransmitters, so I'll kind of connect those two for the listeners so they understand it. We're in beta here and we're talking. Beta is kind of ran by the transmitter of dopamine. So most of your listeners are pretty much dopamine rich if they have a cell phone and they're texting each other or they're playing on their computers. Or our world is, we see flashing lights, signs everywhere. Our brain is kind of overproducing dopamine. So most people don't have a dopamine, shortage. But when they get into the next level brainwave, which is called alpha triggers a neurotransmitter called acetylcholine. And acetylcholine actually helps to build muscles, helps you with creativity, helps you feel good. It's kind of a feel-good endorphin. So if you've ever done something you really love or enjoy, like listening to your radio program, then people are getting their brain waves into alpha, and they just simply feel good. And it's also kind of a timeless state. So people, when they get into that state, they can kind of lose track of time because they're doing things they enjoy. Now, theta is the one that we really focus on, and maybe we'll talk more about it when we get into the conversation, because when you're in theta, you produce something called GABA. And right now in the medical world, the big thing is GABA noise, because so many people are missing this brainwave that they can't sleep at night. They're so stressed out, their body isn't responding. And if you don't have a lot of theta brainwave activity, you're not going to sleep very well. You're going to be irritable, and you're going to have more pain than other people because you're hanging out too much in beta. And then there's delta, which is the one produces the serotonin that most people think that they're missing. But the problem is that the body has, for most people out there, unfortunately, if we were to hook them up to our data pulse analysis, which we can measure brain waves in the nervous system, we're finding that about 60% of the people are over 50% in delta, which is not good when you're awake. You should be less than 7% delta brainwave activity. So they're overproducing serotonin, or the body thinks it doesn't need it. Now, for the listeners out there, too, when we're talking about the brain in our head, there's actually two other brains that we need to talk about so they understand it. There's also a gut brain, and your gut actually has more neurotransmitters in it than the brain in our head, and it has more neuron connections, and the gut makes about 90% of those neurotransmitters. And then we have our heart, which most people aren't aware of, that it actually has a brain in it. It has 40,000 different neuron connections in the heart that tell the brain what to do and harmonizes with the gut. So you have this gut-brain axis. In order to really figure out if somebody's healthy or not, you need to figure out what their heart rate variability is. Are they able to flow between these different brainwave states? Just being able, for instance, to go into alpha, which is where most people go in to meditate, doesn't mean you're really solving your problems, because you can basically overproduce those brainwaves. So there's a kind of a mix that you need for those, and maybe we can get into that a little bit later too. So hope that
absolutely.
covers it for you.
No, it does, Dr. Jerry.
Yeah, I think the brain waves are very powerful, and the bottom line is there was an article that you pointed out to me right before the show about the effectiveness of the gamma waves breaking down amyloid plaque in the brain. So people with Alzheimer's or Parkinson's, this could be a fantastic avenue to go down.
Yeah. So when we talk about gamma too, it's kind of hard to get gamma because it's 40 hertz frequency or higher. But what we found in our research, and we actually backed this up with MIT because they put out that study you're talking about, where they took the mice and the rats and they broke down amyloid plaque in the brain. But when you go, we showed that with Braintap, we were able to increase gamma by 23% in women that were 50 to 65 years old in one session. And of course, it's not going to stick. You got to practice it. But the whole thing is when you cross over the 10 hertz frequency, that's alpha. It works like a tuning fork in the brain. All other brain waves increase and maximize. That's why meditation is so powerful when people go into that alpha state. But we have found that also when you pass by a barrier of 7.8 hertz frequency, which is the theta, it also has another burst, we call it. There's like a gamma burst. Just like in our brain when we're sleeping, we have what's called a delta burst. We have a gamma burst. So our brain is always trying to balance out the brain waves. And so as you reach these deeper levels, you actually maximize the gamma. And for those not familiar with gamma, like if we were to put a healer on our EEG machine while they're doing their healing, maybe they're a hands-on healer, they will produce a lot of gamma. Somebody who's a highly creative person or a problem solver, they typically spike gamma when they're coming up with those creative ideas and solving problems.
Well, excuse me, Dr. Porter. So, Dr. Porter, and another term that is in your website and what you do is brain hacking. Or biohacking? How do our
yes. Right. When you think about our biology, right now we're using biohacking. Most people are using it in a negative way. Back in the 1800s, the average person slept 12 hours a day. Now they didn't have lights like we do, right? So when the old expression, you're burning candles at both ends, it was very expensive to stay up late burning candles. So nobody did it. We got to sleep and the rest we needed. So they're hacking their brains. So what we're doing now is we can use light. The light we use, when somebody's using the lights that we use, the flickering lights in the eyes and the lights in the ears, we have two different light frequencies. These are the light frequencies that come up in the morning and in the evening, that if you could get up and look at the sun's rays at that time, they know, clinically they've shown that it resets the microbiome in the body. It resets your body for that day. So we're using 470 nanometer light, that's blue light, and 633 nanometer light, which is red light. Those two lights, when we have it in the ears, this is one of the biohacks that works so well, is we did this, so the listener understands, when we were working with autistic children are missing alpha, but we can't get them to focus and concentrate. So we had to come up with a way to talk to their body. Our bodies work on a resonant field, or if we want to, it's all frequencies anyway, but when we talk about the body, our body is responding to our environment. It's called frequency following response. So if we put a frequency into the body, like these light frequencies, and we use something called Nogier frequencies, which is one that's 194 hertz, What that does, it actually instructs the body to turn off sympathetic overload. That's the fight or flight that people have. And turn on parasympathetic. That's the rest, relax, the healing brain. So we're going to hack the brain. Instead of waiting for the universe to do it for you, you can do it for yourself. And how that light works is our body is really a photovoltaic, like a panel, like a solar panel, if you will. We need light. So when we absorb that light, it goes into the hemoglobin in the blood and circulates. Now, the reason we use the ears, when somebody looks at our earphones, we have lights in the ears. That's because all the blood in your body passes through the ears, both sides, every 3 to 5 minutes, depending upon how fast your heart is beating. We're sucking that in. Your hemoglobin is absorbing that photovoltaic energy. It's circulating through the body. When your body has apoptosis or cell death, which is happening to us all the time, but under stress it happens even faster, then that part of the body will absorb that photon into the mitochondria. It will kickstart that cell and get the cell working the way it was intended again, basically giving it a new instruction set to function as it was intended in health. Now, the reason we use lights in the eyes as a biohack, when most people meditate, they don't realize that what they're really doing is they're shutting down their brain's function. You know, if you've ever been to the movies and a scary thing happened on the screen, you close your eyes and say, oh, it's just a movie. That's because at that moment you can shut down executive function. But in order to really get the brain to problem solve for you and to create solutions in your life, we need to keep the brain, the frontal lobe, active. So what we do is we're introducing light. Also, light, your eyes actually are responsible for 30% of your hearing. And your listeners, they might have never heard that before, but your eyes are responsible for 30% of your hearing. If you've ever been to a lecture and you couldn't hear the lecture, but then you adjusted your line of sight so you could see the lecturer up at the podium or at the front of the room, then you were able to hear them. That's because our primitive brain is always screening out things in the room. So if we're in a room full of people and we're talking, we might not hear anything else but the conversation we're having with the person next to us. But if somebody says something we really like in my case, I might say light frequencies or, Noge frequencies, I might hear that 4 or 5 people away from me because I'm hearing it all, I'm just filtering it out. What we want to do is we want to use this biohacking technology, which we've been using actually since the 80s, to hack the brain to create these brain waves. Each brainwave is also responsible for other things, but the key thing here is we need to wake up the brain, reboot the brain so that we can get our brain working in the best way possible for us. And when I'm talking about autism, most autistic kids have no alpha. That means they are not producing acetylcholine, which means they're not able to do spatial thinking. They don't know that the person they're hitting is separate from them. They don't know they're going to hurt them. They don't have that capacity for empathy because they don't have alpha. But as soon as they start practicing and they get alpha created again, they start to realize that, hey, there is a separation because we're all what we call object learners. We see objects in the world and then we make meaning of them. But if we don't have that part of our brain working, we can't make sense out of those objects. And that's part of what's happening. In the adult population, it happens to be theta they're missing. That's why the sleep is so bad. They say 1 out of 3 people right now are having problems sleeping through the night. If you don't have theta, you can't make the jump from alpha to delta, and delta is so important. So our key brain hack, one of our key brain hacks is we're going to reset the circadian rhythm. And we've done that with pilots who fly across 7 time zones. They can do a neurological evaluation with them before they leave. They do an evaluation when they land. And typically when somebody flies from San Francisco to China, it takes them 3 days, 3 biological days to get their nervous system back to the way it was before they left. That's because we're all tuned to the light frequencies of the place we're in right now. They went through 7 time zones. So the body got all messed up on the way over there. What we showed is if they did a brain tap session while they're on the airplane, they did a brain tap session when they landed, that within 4 hours, they could be neurologically at the same place they were when they left to San Francisco. Now, they still don't let them fly, but now at least they have their brains about them, and they don't have to go get drunk or go do something crazy to try to reboot their brain, which is what happens. They're not able to sleep. They're irritable. It's because their brainwaves are all out of whack. So we can hack the brain to get our brain into the right brainwave frequency. Once we train it too, it's like, I call it Tai Chi for the mind. You can move those frequencies to whatever brainwave state you want.
Okay, I'm sorry about that, Dr. Porter. I got something biohacked my phone and my microphone. Dr. Jerry, are you there?
Yeah, I got on. I got cut off myself.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. All right, so we're both back on. And Dr. Porter, thanks for continuing on. This is really like I guess most of your interviews, everybody says the same thing. This is just so interesting, and so it's not new, but the way you present it is new. And so, tell us about what happens when brain waves are out of sync or out of balance. Are they then? Do you have disease?
Well, yeah. If you have too much beta going on and a lot of delta, you're going to get a lot of different disorders. Each of these brainwaves, remember, are triggering at least one of the primary neurotransmitters. There's more neurotransmitters than what I mentioned, so we do more than that. But the key thing here is if you're in high beta, you're going to have your adrenals run out. Your adrenal system, your hormonal system is running the show because you're not letting the energy system. When you think of your heart is a magnetic system. So we actually know that you can measure heart rate variability from up to 15 feet. So when you walk into a room, your heart energy can fill a room, like a bedroom or a living room. Your brain, the electrical information from the brain, that takes up very little space. That's why we have to put probes on the skull to record that. But when these two fields are working together in the right frequencies, it harmonizes. This is why they call the heart rate variability happen. You have this harmony process happening. If you have too much beta and not enough alpha, you become irritable, angry, and upset. But if you have too much alpha and not enough beta, you become attention deficit.
Okay.
And if you don't have any theta, you're not going to sleep very well. And the key to sleep, guys, is most people in 2016 in Scientific America, they did a whole article about the plumbing system of the brain, how the brain detoxes. And before that, they weren't really sure how it happened, but it only happens during level 4 sleep. So if you're not sleeping deep, you could sleep 6 hours, but as long as you're getting an hour to an hour and a half of deep sleep, you're probably getting all the sleep you need. It's not about the length of time of sleep anymore. It's about the depth of sleep. And what happens during that deep sleep process, which happens when you're using the Braintap for most people, is that you're going to do what they call a delta burst. That's when the brain literally shuts off the nervous system. And some of your listeners might have experienced this. If you've ever woke up in the middle of the night and you couldn't move because you had sleep paralysis, you actually probably woke up in the middle of one of these cleansing cycles. They only last not even a second, but that's the time when the brain detoxes. It should happen 6 to 8 times every night. So if you're not getting the deep delta during sleep, sleep is the key to all health, really. I mean, if you're not getting deep sleep, it cascades from there and big problems happen. So that's the first thing we do. Like when we did our studies with the vets and the PTSD, is we had to get them sleeping again because they weren't sleeping, so they weren't recovering. They weren't really healing their body. And, of course, if you're not healing the body, it's like you keep driving the car's engine. You never shut it down to service it. You just keep burning it out. You'll burn out the adrenals. You'll burn out the system. So, yeah, the key thing here is when you want to go hard, like we work with quite a few like UFC boxers and Olympic athletes, and they're going 100 miles an hour, but you have to also have the downtime that's necessary so that you can – acetylcholine is necessary to build muscle. It's not just about being using it to be creative and playing a game of golf. For your body to actually build muscle, it needs that neurotransmitter or it won't build muscle for you. So it's all keyed in. It's about balancing. We call it a symphony of brainwaves. You need all of those brainwaves. One is not any better than the other, but you have to be able to flow through them, and especially during sleep, go through 3 or 4 cycles where you're going through each of these different brainwaves. And it's kind of like making a deposit for the next day. You're depositing the right neurotransmitters, so the next day you can make the withdrawals when you need it, and your body stays in the highly, we all want peak performance, or at least most people do, so they want their body to work at the peak levels So you need all of these neurotransmitters working. Of course, you got to eat healthy. You can't miss out on that, and sleep well, and exercise. And then when all that comes together, then your body performs at its highest nature.
Okay, and then I'm glad you pointed that out, because it's more than just treating the brain and the frequencies, but it's a healthy lifestyle and a holistic approach to being healthy. And your frequencies are part of the program, correct?
That's right. I mean, you can, unless somebody is like Saint Germain and can be an alchemist, you've got to eat the healthy stuff. Your body has to have the building blocks that are necessary to build even the neurotransmitters. If you're eating sugar, that's probably the number one thing that kills the nervous system. You know, they say if sugar was put on the market today, it would need FDA clearance because it's so mind-altering and changes the nervous system. So, yeah, we got into this, my family got into this because of nutrition. There's 9 of us in our family. My dad was a firm believer in the rhythm method, and I don't know if my mother bought into it or not, but it didn't work very well. But we
well, we talk about on the program, we talk about low vibrational food and low vibrational thoughts, because that can cause sickness. So everything in life is what? Vibration and frequencies is the way we look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Dr. Porter, I had a quick question for you. I know we had a young child with seizures, and, you know, the bottom line is that the hospital had him on steroids when, in fact, he had aluminum, meningococcal infection in his brain, and thimerosal. You know, once we removed those irritants, you know, the child went back to normal, and the seizures disappeared. So do you run into these type of problems with, some of these people?
Oh, yes. I mean, if you don't detox the brain, then, I mean, it's like trying to do something. You've got to get we always say thoughts, traumas, or toxins. So if you don't get the right thought and you don't get the toxins out and you don't deal with the trauma, the light can heal the body, but you also have to get the toxins out. If not, they get just like people get leaky gut, you get a leaky brain. So that aluminum that comes, unfortunately, in the form of some vaccines and things like that, that you're wondering, why did they have that in there? I mean, I have no idea. And they have other medicines that they give that for some reason they use aluminum. And, of course, I was just in Europe, and they were talking about Mozart, and they said the cure killed Mozart. They're giving him mercury. So, you know, someday they'll look back at some of the things they're doing, and they're going to go, oh, my God, why were they doing that? You know, it's like they think they're doing something good, and the body's responding to it. But our body by design is going to react to whatever is given. So sometimes you get the reaction they want, you get a healing, but unfortunately some things you get a reaction and you're never going to get a healing if you don't put in the right stuff. So, yeah, when we're working with our clinics, we have 1,900 clinics across the country that use Braintap as a therapeutic tool, and most of those doctors are using their own modalities with it because we're just a piece of the equation. We're not the total solution. I don't think there's anything out there right now that's a total solution. We've got to do it all.
Okay, we're having a little bit of this.
No. Hello.
Hello, we can hear you now.
Yeah, Dr. Porter?
Yes.
Okay, I've been working with a very interesting technology. It's hyperpolarized lenses for my sunglasses. And what was interesting, when I have a patient who we test, and they test strong, and then give them something toxic, of course, their muscle response is weak. When I put the glasses on them, they then test strong. And my theory is that the terahertz that are created from the full spectrum glasses literally are overriding the toxicity within the body. Have you had any experience with the hyperpolarized lenses with people?
With the ophthalmologists we work with, they do a lot more of that than we do ourselves, but we've heard of that. Your vision actually is off. When you can turn on the vision circuits in the brain, you can turn on, they say, up to 100% of them. Even though you might not be needing them all, that's how powerful it is. So the body is an incredible thing, so that would be like a biohack. They do that right now. Dave Asprey does that with certain glasses that he's wearing. And David DeMano, who has the Radiation Nation, he talks about the glasses that they use to help people to overcome the overstimulation of the blue rays that are harmful.
Yeah, this definitely calms you down. I wear them when I work on the computer, and as much as possible. And it's pretty amazing. It's simple technology, but I think it's healing the body from the inside out.
Yeah, they also know, like, there are people that put together with just different earth substances. They can create a assumed frequency generator, and that calms people down. And people think, why, with certain compounds that you could find if you went to the mountains. You have this combination and it resonates a certain frequency. We all are, we're light, sound, and vibration, really. That's what the universe is made of. So everything is vibrating as energy. So if we can adjust one part of that energy string, it's going to adjust the others. And depending upon how sensitive a person is, there are some people that are so sensitive to, like, EMF, they need something like what you're talking about. They can't even function in today's world because they're being bombarded by so much electromagnetic radiation.
Which brings up an interesting point. What's your feeling on the 5G when they roll that out? That's going to do a number on our brains.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, we have to find ways to mitigate it. Our bodies will eventually adapt to something like that, and I think they're doing a global experiment or something, because it's radiation at a low dose. It might not do anything today, but in 20 years we're going to find out, what it actually did to everyone. They do know that it's changing the gene expression. So, but even like Bruce Lipton said, we can change 2,300 gene expressions by our thoughts. So we have to keep positive thoughts. If you have fear-based thoughts, it's going to shut down the immune system. So you've got to figure out something. There are different technologies you can wear. I wear an amulet that Fred Bell created before he passed away, and I still have it. That they did the same thing with muscle testing with me, and it made me really strong, even to the point where things that could be smelling toxic, it didn't affect my body. So we've got to get more technologies like that, because we're going to have to use biohacking to keep up with what they're doing to our biology.
Yeah.
These bodies aren't keeping up.
Yeah, I was listening to one of your videos, and I was really enamored about the ability to increase IQ. Could you give our listeners a little insight into your technology and how it can enhance a person's IQ?
Yeah, first I'll tell them, what we find when we're working with dementia or working with attention deficit is that one hemisphere is moving either faster or slower than the other. So the two hemispheres aren't communicating. So think about it like you have two computers on a network, and they're not communicating in time. Our brain is designed to, everything that we think isn't coming from one source. Like when we think an image, if I say think of a fire truck, you just went to 5 different places in your brain to get that image. And so the brain is always, but if you take and slow down one piece to the other, it's going to affect it. But we can improve the speed of brain function. So when somebody has a fast acting, it's almost like a fast twitch muscle for an athlete. Some people, their brain just works like that. But what we can do by stimulating with light, sound, and vibration, the brain loves patterns, and it wants to master any pattern that it sees. So what we do is we're going to use these frequencies, if you will, to challenge the brain, and then when it returns from the exercise, the mental exercise, even though it's a relaxing exercise, it stimulated the neurotransmitters and the neurology of the system. 70% of your nervous system's in the brain. So if we can work that and get those new thoughts, firing and wiring around those new ideas, we can problem solve better. We can become more creative. The people get paid the most, and that like when you do an IQ test, it's all about problem solving. But if you go into a problem with the belief that you can't solve it, there's a story of a university professor that had 2 problems on the board that had never been solved, and there was a guy who fell asleep in his class, and when he woke up, he said, "What did I miss?" He said, "These are the 2 problems for homework." He came back the next day and solved one of them, because he wasn't present to hear that it wasn't possible.
Huh.
So our brains are so powerful, we just have to unlock the potential. And we can expose it to that potential through light, sound, and vibration. And we call it the inventive mind, theta. We call the alpha brain is the intuitive brain. So, and then the other than conscious, the delta. So think of it as knowing everything that you don't already know. everything is a vibration. So every thought that's ever been thought on our earth is resonating as a frequency out there. So all knowledge is available to everyone if you have a way to access it. Just like if we wanted to watch TV, we need a TV receiver. We need to tune our brain so we can receive this information pool that's out there.
Wow. So when our listeners hear vibration, we're not talking vibrator. We're talking the vibrational energy. No, but I mean, I see some questions popping up here, and I'm on the board here, and I just want to make sure they understand that this is vibrational energy. We're not talking about a headset to vibrate your head or anything.
Right.
Dr. Porter, Dr. Jerry and I have for years now always advised our listeners to shut off the router and the Wi-Fi at night when they sleep. If possible, shut off the circuit breakers to their room. Is this something that your group advises also?
Oh, yeah. With David DeMond, who wrote the book Radiation Nation, we promote his products, and he's done a lot of the research. I mean, people don't understand even your electrical circuit is throwing out energy when nothing is plugged into it. So there's things going on, and of course, router information. Not everybody can sleep in a Faraday cage, but that would be the best solution. If we could.
Right. Yeah, we've told our listeners to get rid of their smart meters and all the things that we think could be interfering with, especially sleep, because we have a lot of calls of people that are not getting a good night's sleep. And we did talk about that lymphatic system that drain the brain, but you actually put it very succinctly. I appreciate that. So your technology that's available on an app and on the computer, does it just explain in practical terms what's involved for our listeners if they go on that app?
Mm-hmm. If they go to braintap.pro and they download it, they can use just their phone, and they're going to get the frequencies, the sound frequencies. They use their own earphones, and they would listen to it that way, and they would train the brain. It's going to even though you're not hearing the frequencies, you might hear a message on some of them. Some we just have music, but there's going to be a cortical response, which means if we had you hooked up to an EEG, we would see different regions of the brain being lit up and guiding them through a state of relaxation. The nice thing, too, is at the end of it, it's going to bring you back out and it's going to wake you up. So we have sessions, like we call them wake-up sessions. These are digital coffee. Use them in the morning to wake up your brain, get you out of delta, get you more into that alpha, theta rhythm and beta, where you can have the energy and the cognition to take care of the day. Now, we also have sleeping sessions. We also have sessions for all the things you mentioned at the beginning of the show, from sports to improving your weight or stop smoking. But if you add the headset, which is the lights in the eyes, which your eyes are closed, and the lights in the ears, you're adding the next component, because we need our body. One of the most underprescribed nutrients on earth today is light. That's why John Ott, who created the full spectrum light programs and tells people about it, that's the kind of light our body needs, and we're designed to be outside, hunting and gathering. But our light from our sun now, because of all the pollution in that, we're not getting the full spectrum light even by our own sun. So we're not giving you full spectrum light, but what we're doing is we're giving you the light that's necessary to help the body reset that circadian rhythm and get you back into a really deep, natural sleeping cycle and de-stressing the body. And it's all done for you, so all you have to do is close your eyes. We say press play to change. All you need to do is press play. You'll start to change, because our brain loves to adapt, improvise, and overcome. It's not just the Marines. Our body loves to do that.
Dr. Porter, do you have a program for fear? Because I treat a lot of people with some, serious illnesses and issues, and one common denominator, there's just an underlying level of fear that I think that really has to be resolved.
Yes, we have two programs, two series actually. One is called Life Mastery, and the other is called Better Life Me. And they all deal with what we call the cycle of life and different things that are happening. The first one in the Life Mastery series is called the Discovering the Natural Risk Zone, because people aren't willing to risk. They're afraid to go outside of their own box. So we got to figure out where their zone is and get them to move outside of their zone. It's like there's a cartoon I really like. guy up on the chalkboard, and he's writing, and there's a circle that says your comfort zone, and then there's an X outside of it that says your success. So you got to get outside of your comfort zone if you really want to have success. But how do you get there? One of the experiments I tell people about that is, even in the studio right now, if you were to put your hands together and notice which thumb's on top, would it be the right thumb or the left thumb? It's going to be one of them, right?
Right.
Go ahead and roll the other thumb on top right now. What does that feel like?
Different.
So if your left thumb was on top, you put that on the bottom and roll the other one on top. Is that a little uncomfortable now?
It is for me.
Yes. So if your listeners are doing that, when you ask somebody to make a change, it's not just their thumb, it's their whole nervous system. So part of making a change is getting the brain to think about it. What you think about, you bring about. So you have to visualize it to realize it. And if they're not visualizing it first, they might be projecting all their fear into it, and then they get more fearful. So part of what we do with the Braintap is we're going to create what we call long-term thinking. We're going to create a timeline for that change. What people want more than anything else over my years of doing, therapy with people is they want to have hope, and they want to be shown a direction to get to their goal. If you can do those two things, fear dissipates. But as long as there's even a cloud of doubt, Wayne Dyer said it best. He said you have to cast out all doubt for success to be achieved. So if there's any doubt in their mind, they're not going to take that step. There's going to be mistrust. There's going to be negative thoughts. But if they're certain, if we can build certainty in, they're going to make. And sometimes that means that's why in AA they might have them just do 1 minute at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 day at a time. But if we can get them to move out their thinking a little bit more and be comfortable with it, where they can see, hear, and experience themselves in a future scenario, creating the change that you're asking them to make. I went into people's homes that were agoraphobic. They couldn't even get out of the house. And within 2 weeks, they're driving their car and doing everything naturally. Because it's all about what we experience in our life is not reality. We experience our perception of reality. So we need to change that perception, and then we change our reality.
I think that answers your question, Dr. Jerry.
Yeah, very succinctly and very powerful. Thank you so much.
And I think that his programs may get us into more of a parasympathetic rather than a fight or flight sympathetic nervous system level. Does that make sense, Dr. Porter?
Yes. So and that's another key point that you're talking about is if we can get them into a physiological state, you can change your psychology state. So if we get them relaxed, we can start changing the way they think about themselves and think about the world. But if they're in that fear-based, sympathetic overload, you can't make good decisions, or you can't digest there. You could be taking the world's greatest supplements, and they'll just be eliminated because your body's so stressed out. You think you're running from a saber-toothed tiger, and there's no tiger behind you. So we need to let go of the tiger and get them to relax, get the body to work the way it was intended. And then they can start thinking better and acting and responding to life better.
So just as a quick question here, do you recommend a specific sequence of programs that someone should get into, like a basic program to prepare them for the major change?
Yeah, when they go on to the Braintap, there's one that says start brain tapping. We recommend that's the first 15 you listen to. And they're just in order. They're already there for you. So you do listen to them in order, and they're going to train the brain because the first ones might take 7 to 8 minutes to get you to theta. But by the time you're to 15, you're getting to theta. And we know this, that about at least 95% of the people are going to get to theta within 2 weeks, within 2 minutes. You're training your brain, but you don't have to train it the way we learn in school. Your brain learns through frequency vibration. So we can train it to do it very quickly.
And these programs are on your website at braintap.com, correct?
Yep. When they do the free time, they're going to get access to all of them, so they get to play with them and get their family to play with them and see how they respond. Especially if they're not sleeping, well, they download it tonight and have a great night's sleep.
And that's great. And I would add one thing before Dr. Jerry does, and we also propose on this show that you use air tubes for the headset, so to keep that EMF away from your brain. So I think most of our listeners do have a set of ear tubes and don't use the Bluetooth. Well, Dr. Jerry, I think in the time that we've allotted with Dr. Porter, we've learned a lot. My head is spinning myself. It's given the fact that we had the little technical difficulty here in the beginning.
Yeah, I had an interesting question. My girlfriend about 6 months ago got hearing aids, and I just started looking through her manual about the operation, and it just matter-of-factly says, well, it gives off between 1 and 11 megahertz. And then when I was preparing for one of our shows on frequencies, the FCC says you shouldn't be exposed to more than 6 minutes from 1 to 10 megahertz. Excuse me. So I'm just wondering, have you run into any issues with people who need hearing aids affecting their brain function?
Well, that's not good. I've not heard that one before, but that's very interesting. What we typically do is we've had people take out their hearing aids and do it, but I've not done a lot of work in that area as far as does it affect them, but that's very interesting. I'm going to have to do some research about that. I'd never, because we get asked that question all the time. I didn't know that, so that's a piece. You just taught me something really good. So I'll go do some research.
Yeah, well, it's really fascinating. I had one patient down from Canada, and he had all kinds of medical problems, and he took his hearing aid out, or both of them, and when they held them over all the organs of the body and muscle tested them, it blew them out weak. So the darn frequencies are disrupting organ function.
Yeah, they can, like what we found is blue light that we use, the 470 nanometer light actually cancels out EMF. They need to do something like that. Like we have zero EMF in our BrainTap headset.
Yeah. Well,
so,
yeah, I use a special diode that I recommend people with hearing aids that they wear, and it actually negates the physiologic effect of the frequencies to their body. So there is a way of protecting them.
Yeah, that's perfect. I'd love to learn more about that. Maybe you can send that off to us. I would love to be able to share that.
Absolutely.
If you have some.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Porter, I guess just one other thing. There's a lot of inexpensive brainwave LED lights and so forth on the market. Any value?
Well, one thing is that back in the 80s, in 86, when I invented the first portable light and sound machine, we only had HemiSync. And they're very good. I mean, there's some good quality things out there, but there's some that people just make up. And Dr. Kaplan at Moscow University, we use his research, and we actually paid for his algorithms because he had more information than I did. So we might as well go to the source. He's the guy that created the brain technology that has somebody's brain speaking. And, you know, he's going to revolutionize that because he has people in wheelchairs just using brain waves to move things around.
Wow.
So some are just junk. I mean, some people just have Christmas lights. I've seen some people say, "Oh, I'm using this device or that device," and it's like they're just flashing lights.
Oh, God.
All right, Dr. Jerry, anything else from you, sir?
I was in one of the articles on the web, they were saying that the binaural therapy can actually raise melatonin levels by as much as 97%. Is that a true statement, or is it close to that? Or?
Well, I think it can because it gets you into it's resetting that circadian rhythm so you can actually release melatonin. So I've never seen it that high, but, you know, I wouldn't put it past, you know, if they were doing it for that purpose, you know, that frequency that would release it. You know, most people never reset their circadian rhythm because they don't go to sleep before 10 o'clock at night. You know, but you can do it synthetically. You can biohack. You can do it like we're doing with BrainTap, and I'm sure there's other ways to do it. We're not the only way, but there's ways you could do that.
All right, Dr. Porter, I promised Arlen that we'd only keep you a short time, but with this, if it's possible in the future, we'd definitely like to have you back when even myself, I understand this a little bit more thoroughly and have a chance to try your product. Dr. Smith is, he's in active practice, and I am just doing the podcast and doing some research and writing a book. So I'd like to really try this. Dr. Smith tries everything we talk about, and he's having great results. I mean, because he's on the cutting edge of the technology, especially with the hearing aid. We've done shows on that, and I have people that I golf with, and just tell them to take their hearing aids out, and they get stronger, they golf better, their performance increases. It's just incredible.
And they miss your jokes.
To them, it's a blessing.
Yes. No, I would love to be involved more with what you're doing. It sounds like you're the kind of guys I'd like to hang out with. So that's what we do. So, and I would love to learn more about some of the things you're doing. So I'm going to have to find out how I can tune into some of your old shows.
Well, it's interesting. Real quickly, I do what I call virtual injection, where I literally am finding a lot of glyphosate, Roundup, the pesticide, trapped in people's brains, especially Alzheimer's or Parkinson's. Mm-hmm. And what I'm doing is taking an infrared laser, 650 nanometers, and pulsing it through the homeopathic remedy into the brain where I located the pesticide, and it literally erases it. It's pretty amazing technology, and it's so damn simple, and it's non-invasive.
That's great. Yeah, we use Avant lasers, so that'd be something neat to experiment with in the office. So, yeah, I'd love to be on this show. Let us know.
And you'd be interested. I had a conversation with Dr. Pollock yesterday, and he says his structured water is structured because of light. So light is, as you said, we're deficient in it, and if we don't have the proper structure of our water, we're not healthy. And another gentleman, Dr. Cowan, has a book out called The Human Heart, The Cosmic Heart, where he talks about structured water and how the heart is more than just a pump. So the light is really important. That's why I was interested to hear your comments tonight.
Yeah, very good.
Dr. Jerry, he's been really gracious with his time.
Yeah, thank you, yeah.
Let's let him go. And Dr. Porter, Dr. Jerry has a website you can go to. It's icnr.com, and I'll drop off the information to the person that referred me to you, so you can get in touch with him, and we can do this again in the future.
Yeah, let's get you some product. Let you play with it too. So.
Thank you. Well, we were talking before the program, a program with you and Bruce Lipton. I mean, gosh, we'd have to. Well, what a hoot that would be. Yeah.
Yeah. I interviewed him just actually a couple of months ago. He's one of the co-professors with me at Quantum University. So he's a very good guy. I use a lot of his information. He has great ways to say things, for sure.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. God bless, and we will get in touch with you again. And I know our audience learned a lot tonight, as did Dr. Jerry and I. So thank you, and enjoy the rest of the evening, and we'll be in touch with you. Thank you, Dr. Porter.
Okay, thank you. Okay, talk to you soon.
Well, Jerry, that was more than I thought we would get.
Absolutely. Well, he was interested in our approach, I think, and that's the important thing is the more we get this information out to the people, the faster they're going to get healed, because the traditional medical model is, in my opinion, obsolete. It's antiquated and actually Neanderthal in mentality, their approach. But anyway,
it's good for emergencies. I mean, for emergency
absolutely.
care, it is excellent. But for we spend the most of any developed nation, and yet we rank 30th in morbidity and mortality. So the system is failing when there's a pill for every ill. And it was really great that he knew about this research at MIT that you and I talked about before the show, with using strobe lights and to get rid of these plaques. So he's not only has a great business model, but he's also keeping up with the science, which I really appreciate.
And I think also integrating his technology with Dr. Wong's technology with Zymescence and Dr. Peskin's technology with the omega-6s. I'm integrating all this stuff, and I can't wait to start playing around with these frequencies. I mean, I started to use the brain tuner more actively now, and just seeing some fascinating stuff with just that. I mean, it can only be positive.
Right, and one thing that we do know is that the so-called love chemicals of serotonin, oxytocin, and dopamine,
right,
all influenced by these frequencies.
Well, even a simple Rife technology, you could run a sweep from 111 hertz to 112, and literally activate all the neurotransmitters in the brain, and stimulate a whole different mental state in a person.
Exactly. I mean, it's too simple. That's the problem. But the other thing that our listeners have to know is that their thoughts are vibrational, and if they have a lot of negative thoughts, they're going to have a lot of low vibrational energy, and that's going to make them sick. So, besides doing the physical things about listening to certain frequencies, and you must have positive thoughts, a positive outlook, and an attitude of gratitude. And that ranks right up there with everything else.
And also cutting down on the amount of TV you watch, because that really dumbs down your brain and suppresses it.
Well, you brought up an interesting point, is that the world IQ now is 82. 82 is the world IQ. I mean, so are we getting dumbed down? Yes, we are. We are getting dumbed down. There's just no doubt about it. So all these things to improve your mental state and energy, or the ozone. I mean, the ozone, the parent essential oils, the zymescence, frequencies, and detoxing, getting rid of the toxins, especially the glyphosate. In fact, there was an article today. Glyphosate now is associated with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So not bad enough we have the Tylenol doing it. Now the glyphosate is killing us.
Well, that
through our livers.
Poison, it's so ubiquitous in our society. Like I said, I'm finding it in pretty much every patient that I test now. I just had a woman in today, and she has thyroid problems, and lo and behold, I mean, she eats more vegetarian and relatively clean, but she has glyphosate in her thyroid, and that's suppressing it. So yeah, this poison it's all over the place. These idiots, it took them 50 years to wake up to DDT. I wonder how long it's going to take them. Maybe a few multi-million-dollar lawsuits against Monsanto will wake them up faster.
Yeah, I think Bayer made a bad move there. I think they're regretting it, as their shareholders are letting them know. But I think that this program is onto something that can keep people healthy. As we talk about, you got to be the CEO of your own body, which means you have to take control of it. But there's a second part of that. You have to listen to your body, and you have to listen to what works and what doesn't work. And I mean, just recently, my father, who was up in Pennsylvania, he got a cold. Doctor put him. He's got in and out of atrial fibrillation. He puts him on a Z-Pack. And then black box warning is that it can cause death in the first day of taking it from heart arrhythmias. So it wasn't even a bacterial infection. So you really have to take control.
Well, the other thing too, you want to put some Sunoco 110 racing fuel in your body. Get real food in your body. Good dandelion greens. Collard greens, celery, cilantro. Real food.
Yeah,
and
real food.
Don't kill it in a microwave.
Well, you have the best line about microwaves. They have a great clock.
Yes.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed tonight. A little different take on health, as we talk about the frequencies in our brain, the alpha waves, theta waves, delta waves, and now gamma waves, which again I'd heard about, but wasn't really educated on. Really important, and the binaural beats, and this braintap.com or braintap.pro.com. Good place to visit and start your experimentation with these sounds and frequencies. See how you feel, see how you focus, see how you sleep. Because if you get a good night's sleep, that sets you up for the next day to be healthy, wealthy, and wise. So I don't have anything else I want to tell the audience except I saw a quote today that the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. So don't be afraid to speak out if you see something wrong. Okay, don't be quiet about it. Okay, because that's when we start to deteriorate as a nation. And with that, Dr. Jerry Whitty, I know you always have words of wisdom for our audience.
Yes, when your wife asks you, what are you doing? Tell her nothing. And just say it's a continuation of yesterday so she don't ask any more questions.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're still waiting for Freddie to write our closing song, but we don't have it, so we're going to use one of our own from another group from Philly, but our own sayings here, none of the songs. So we'll see you next week. We have lots of things. We do have Dr. Jerry Pollack coming on, who is the godfather of structured water, the fourth phase of water. We have to talk about that. We had Fraser coming on in June. Let's see. Let me get the date. When is that?
June 4th, is it? It's a Tuesday, right?
Yeah, June 4th. We have Fraser coming on to talk about the documentary Root Cause and to find out what else he's working on.
Absolutely. Well, it's got to be good because it was banned by Netflix. They took it off because it was truth. It was like a dagger in the heart.
It is really great. Fraser Bailey, ladies and gentlemen. In fact, that's next week. That's next Tuesday, an interview with Fraser Bailey, and we'll discuss root cause. And Dr. Jerry actually is in that documentary. Be a very interesting show. We have Dr. Pollack. He just has to give us a time. We'll have Janet Doman to come on the show, talk about her experiences with rehabilitation and brain injuries. And, they just keep coming. I do want to do a program for our vets because there's so many suicides. And believe it or not, the physician suicides are catching up to our good vet suicides. So I want to interview a psychiatrist about that and see what he has to say, see if we can help some of our vets who actually have allowed us to have this type of program and have the freedoms that we do have. So that's our little bit of lineup for the next coming weeks. And with that, Dr. Jerry, I think we're going to call it a night.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, and have a great evening. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to Dr. Ron, Unfiltered, Uncensored, with Dr. Ron and Dr. Jerry. We are here each and every week to bring you medical news that you can use and medical news that you will not hear on the mainstream media. We hope you enjoy our podcast, and we hope to see you on the radio next week. Have a great one. Ciao.